At what point do we decide that it's immoral to roll out this new technology, or will we ever do that, and will we just adapt or fall behind?
Various forms of technology over the course of history have often displaced people from work, often in great numbers. One of the statistics that I like to use in a situation like this is that in the year 1900, 50% of Americans who were employed worked on a farm. And in the year 1950, there was no lower employment rate, but 2% of Americans in 1950 worked on a farm. So various forms of technological innovation in agriculture had a massive displacement of people engaged in labor in agriculture. And so the open question is whether or not these newer forms of technology, artificial intelligence and robotics, will displace people in a way that's unlike previous historical transitions, or we're just waiting to see what the new kinds of work there will be that will evolve. And I'm sure, well, maybe I'm not sure. In Silicon Valley, you can't go a week without stumbling across a conference or a workshop on a universal basic income. And the idea there, which seems characteristic to me of the tech community, a fundamentally defensive posture that the tech community seems to have rallied around the idea of providing people a universal basic income, not because it's good for their freedom or not because it's equality enhancing, but because it fundamentally protects them reputationally from having been responsible for making people unemployed. That's the current language or discourse in Silicon Valley. And I would, perhaps side with the technologists here in saying that the technology itself is neither immoral or moral. It's a force in the world, and we have to confront it morally. And universal basic income is just one such mechanism to confront the threat of technological unemployment.
Yeah, I would sharpen a couple of the points.
Deploy it morally, too.
Yeah,
Deploy
yeah.
it, sure.
A couple of things I would add there is there will be a displacement on scale with the displacement of agriculture being automated. That's coming, right? The questions about whether it's moral or not depend on how we do it, not the what, right? And the how is a couple parts. The one is UBI, universal basic income, as Silicon Valley is advancing it, is structured to just take all the externalities of this and foist it on the rest of society. They are not proposing that they would raise the taxes on Google and Facebook and these other companies enough to cover the new UBI, right? They're just saying, well, let's just make everybody else pay for it. So, and we're in the same way that we already subsidize essentially the way Walmart hires workers by providing a social safety net that augments the wages that Walmart provides to its workers. That's where we can get into evaluating morality. Right, is if you displace people and you force the burden of that disruption you put on their lives onto others, and you extract enormous profit from doing so without having a dialogue with society about your role in it, that to me is where you get into the realm of what's moral, what's ethical here. But I think the other challenges are we see the big trends, and so you could talk about, okay, self-driving tractor trailers are coming and millions of drivers are going to be out of work, and that's a real important reckoning. But the reason that's possible is that truck drivers have been intensely surveilled for years, and so we have all the data to make the self-driving software around there. So the moral choice was made 10 years ago, right? Like the path that we're on was sort of already decided, and the question's about how we respond to it. And when we start to see the social pressure force them to say, I support UBI and I support paying for it because we're the richest companies in the history of the world, then we can evaluate the morality of it. The what is not the question, the how is what the question.